my name is Howard. I've done art for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and Image. I'm creating a new 144-page graphic novel called The Wondrous World. Armando Zanker is drawing and Simone Arena is coloring. With this video series, I'll take you through our creative process of how we are making this book. I'm not saying our way is the best way or the only way, it's just the way we're doing the book. And if you're interested in creating your own graphic novel or comic book, maybe this will help you out. The first part of this series we'll focus on is story. The Wondrous World is about this 82-year-old guy named Aaron Rosen. He tells these neighborhood kids about these adventures he had when he was young in this magical world with strange creatures and advanced technology. And the kids in the neighborhood, they like the stories that he tells them, but they just think they're stories. Until one day they find themselves transported into this world and they realize all these stories that he told them were true. But they have this advantage in that they've heard these stories, so they know their way around. But now they have to find their way back home. I don't outline when I write a story. I just think of the story as much as possible. And I get specific scenes in my head and I get characters down. And I'll write names of characters and brief descriptions of them and their history. Eventually I'll form specific scenes in mind with dialogue and specific actions. I'll know how the story begins and I'll know how it ends. And when I come to a point where I feel like I know what's going to happen overall, but not everything specifically, I go ahead and start writing the script. I write the script as a screenplay. I started writing screenplays when I was in college, so I'm comfortable with the format. For The Wondrous World, it took me a few months to finish the first draft, and then several months later for subsequent rewrites. Then at that point, I just set it aside because I didn't feel comfortable enough with the script. Something just didn't feel right to me, so I just set it aside, and I didn't actually look at it for years, several years. I went and did other projects and wrote other stuff. Every once in a while I would go back in and rewrite some stuff here and there, but it just never felt right till several years later when I figured out what needed to be fixed. 3 things bothered me: the beginning, 2 giant monster characters I had, and 2 supporting characters I had, Janji and Shibuya. For the beginning, when I was a kid, I saw a making of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg said something that blew the mind of a young Howard Shum. He was shooting the opening scene of the Temple of Doom, and he said, for the Indiana Jones movies, they always start off their movies as if it was the end of another movie. And he said they did that because that's how the James Bond movies were. And I never realized that. I saw all the James Bond movies and I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and this never occurred to me. And when he said that, it was like he just reviewed a magic trick. And I felt like, oh wow, if I ever become a writer, that's what I'm gonna do. And when I did become a writer, I did start off all the comics I created, with action scenes, and specifically like Spielberg said, as if they were the end of another movie. But as I said before, this is what I do. You shouldn't do it just because I do it. And of course, Spielberg doesn't do all his movies as if they were, the end of some action movie. So, that's just my thing. The opening scene wasn't strong enough for The Wondrous World, so I rewrote it. I added more danger to it because the opening scene is important because this sets up the whole world for readers. If you don't grab the readers with this, you're not going to grab them at all. So I added more danger to it, and I made it more fantastical, and just made more surprises to it. The rewrite with that I was happy with. And 2, I had these 2 giant monsters. I had a joke in it that it always bugged me that I wasn't sure if it was funny enough, and so eventually I just cut it. And I rewrote that scene so it was just more of a big action sequence. I was more comfortable with that rewrite. And with the supporting characters, Janji and Shibuya, they start off as a riff of 2 other, popular science fiction characters. when you're rewriting, what you should do is you should look at the characters, all the characters, not just the main characters, and see if this movie or this story was from their point of view, how would it be? And you should also think how their life is going on and stuff like that. So the initial draft of Janji and Shibuya, the characters was just too ordinary. So I just rewrote their entire history. I gave them a new background where I made them former special ops. Just changing that just caused this whole domino effect where not only did their roles change in this story, but it changed, how other people were affected by them. And I gave them their own mission too, but besides just helping the main characters of the book. So, and this opened up this entire world to me, which I didn't see beforehand, which just because I changed these two characters, I saw this whole entire world more clearly. And not only did this help me for this script, it helped me in that I could see how I could take this story further beyond just this particular book. So I was really happy with that adjustment. When I'm happy with the screenplay, I begin breaking that down into thumbnail layouts of comic book pages. Comic books and movies are different, and anyone who tells you otherwise, don't know the differences of the two mediums. If someone tells you, a comic book is just storyboards for a movie, they don't know the medium, because it's not the same thing. Totally two different things. Some things work well for movies and some things work well for comics, so you have to adapt it. So I'm adapting the screenplay into a comic book format by, breaking down the drawings. These layouts are just for me to reference when I'm writing the comic book script. That's why it looks scribbly and fast. Only I need to understand them. I don't ever show them to anyone else, not even the artists I work with. The script is detailed enough in that they will know what I'm looking for in each page and panel. The reason I don't show them is because because anytime I have shown artists layouts or sketches, 99% of the time they draw exactly like I did. I don't want to hinder the creativity of the artists I'm working with. Drawing comics is hard work. I want them to feel like that if they have a good idea, they can present it. I don't want to confine them. If an artist doesn't understand something in my script, I will do a sketch and show it to them. When I'm done with the layouts, I take them and I start writing the comic book script. I write my page and panel descriptions based on my layouts. During each phase, I'm constantly rewriting. I still use Final Draft for my comic book script. Once the script is done, it goes to the artist, in this case, Armando. That's my process of how we do story for comics. Join me next time for how we do art for our book. Thanks for watching and click on subscribe.